In 1954, archaeologists cracked open a sealed pit at the base of the Great Pyramid of Giza and found a 4,500-year-old ship that engineers say could still sail today. No nails, no metal, just cedar wood and grass rope. In 1405, a Chinese admiral commanded a fleet so massive that Columbus's entire expedition could have fit on a single one of his ships. And 1,000 years before GPS, Polynesian navigators crossed the largest ocean on Earth using nothing but stars, waves, and birds, with a margin of error of just 41 kilometers after 4,000 miles at sea. We think ancient people feared the open ocean. The facts say something completely different. Today we are looking at 5 ships that by every law of physics should never have worked. 5 vessels from 5 civilizations, separated by thousands of years and thousands of miles. And we are going to find out why they didn't just sail, they changed the course of human history. In 1954, Egyptian archaeologist Kamal El-Malik was clearing debris on the southern side of the Great Pyramid of Giza. Beneath a layer of limestone blocks, he discovered a sealed pit carved directly into the bedrock. Inside lay 1,224 wooden fragments arranged in precise order, like a giant puzzle waiting to be solved. It took restorers 14 years to piece it together. What emerged was a vessel 43 meters long and nearly 6 meters wide. The oldest intact ship on the planet. There is not a single nail in this ship. Not one metal fastening of any kind. The cedar planks, imported from the forests of Lebanon, are held together with wooden pegs and ropes made from halfa grass that grows along the banks of the Nile. When that grass gets wet, it swells. And as it swells, the joints lock together, turning the entire hull into a single solid mass. Engineers confirmed that if you put this ship in water today, it would float without a single leak. A technology 4,500 years old still outperforms some modern yachts. Around the pyramid alone, archaeologists found 5 separate boat pits. The Egyptians were not experimenting. They had a fully developed technology that served an entire empire thousands of years before the Phoenicians learned to raise a sail. If you find yourself drawn to stories like this, stories the history books skip over, subscribe to this channel, because what comes next will surprise you even more. The solar boat had no keel and no mast. It moved entirely on oars, 10 rowers pulling forward while a helmsman controlled 2 stern oars. Without a keel, a ship cannot resist lateral drift. Without a sail, it depends entirely on human muscle. And yet, the Egyptians built these vessels on an industrial scale. The solar boat of Khufu now rests in the Grand Egyptian Museum, transported there in 2021 on a remote-controlled platform moving at walking pace, because a single sharp jolt could have destroyed wood that spent 45 centuries breathing the dry air of Giza. The Egyptians mastered the Nile. But for the true revolution in naval warfare, we have to cross to the other side of the Mediterranean, to a civilization that turned a rowing boat into a guided weapon. Imagine a ship 37 meters long and only 6 meters wide. Inside this narrow wooden hull sit 170 rowers arranged in 3 tiers, each offset from the one below so the oars don't interfere and the center of gravity stays as low as possible. This is the trireme, the battle machine that dominated the Mediterranean from the 6th to the 4th century BC. The rowers were free citizens, not slaves. If slaves were ever needed, they were freed first, because the survival of every man on board depended on 170 people moving in perfect synchronization. At full sprint, 170 rowers striking the water in unison pushed the trireme to 9 knots. At ramming speed, theoretical calculations put it at 14, that is 26 kilometers per hour, faster than most modern sailing yachts. The primary weapon was a bronze ram at the bow at the waterline. Accelerate, punch through the enemy hull below the surface. In 1987, the Greek Navy built the Olympias, a full-scale replica. During trials, it reached 9 knots and completed a full 360-degree turn in less than 2 ship lengths. Thucydides records a trireme covering 300 kilometers in a single day, 185 nautical miles, when Athens sent an order to massacre the entire population of the island of Lesbos. The next day, the assembly changed its mind and sent a second ship to cancel. That crew rowed without stopping, eating at their benches, sleeping in shifts. They arrived as the first order was already being read aloud to the crowd. The lives of thousands depended on the speed of a wooden ship and 170 pairs of hands. In 1405, a fleet left the mouth of the Yangtze River that the world had never seen before and has never seen since. More than 200 ships, 27,800 crew members. At the head of this armada stood Zhang He, a eunuch, a Muslim, and the greatest admiral in the history of China. As a boy, he was captured during a war, castrated, and sent to serve at the imperial court. But talent proved stronger than circumstance, and Emperor Yongle entrusted this former prisoner with the most expensive project in the history of the Middle Kingdom. The flagships were called Baochuan treasure ships. According to the official Ming Dynasty chronicles, the flagship measured 44 zhang. Converting to modern measurements produces figures between 70 and 137 meters depending on the standard applied. Even by the most conservative estimate, these ships were twice the length of any European vessel of that era. Skeptics argue a wooden ship over 100 meters would break apart in open water. The Swedish warship Vasa, just 69 meters, sank on its very first voyage in 1628. But the Chinese had a solution European shipbuilders would not discover for another 400 years. Watertight internal bulkheads divided the hull into isolated compartments. If one flooded, the others stayed dry. How do you think the greatest naval power in history ended up burning its own fleet? Write your answer in the comments. In 1957, excavations at the Longjiang shipyard in Nanjing uncovered a rudder post 11 meters long. 11 meters, longer than half of Columbus's Santa Maria. Marine engineers calculated that rudder belonged to a vessel between 138 and 166 meters in length. Zhang He completed 7 expeditions over 28 years, reaching the east coast of Africa and the Persian Gulf. He brought back giraffes to China, animals the imperial court believed were the mythical Chilan, a creature of legend. He established trade networks from Sumatra to Somalia. 87 years before Columbus crossed the Atlantic with 90 men on 3 small caravels, Zhang He was already commanding a floating city. Then the emperor died. Confucian officials ordered the blueprints burned, the shipyards dismantled, and ocean-going construction banned entirely. The greatest fleet in history was left to rot in harbor. The maps that might have rewritten history turned to ash. And China turned its back on the ocean for a century, leaving the seas open for the Europeans who came after. The Pacific Ocean covers 1/3 of the surface of the planet. 165 million square kilometers of water broken by thousands of tiny islands. When Captain James Cook landed in Hawaii in 1778, people had already been living there for more than 1,000 years. The Polynesians settled every inhabitable island across a triangle stretching from Hawaii to New Zealand to Easter Island, on double-hulled canoes, 2 wooden hulls connected by crossbeams. The largest reached 35 meters and carried over 100 people with animals, seeds, and a month of fresh water. But the real technology was not the canoe. It was the navigation. No compass, no sextant, no charts, only stars, waves, wind, and birds. Navigators memorized the positions of more than 150 stars, tracked ocean swells, read the color of water to gauge depth and proximity to land. When they believed land was close, they released a frigate bird, a species that cannot land on water. If it didn't return, there was an island nearby. In 1976, a double-hulled canoe called Hockulay left Hawaii and reached Tahiti, 4,000 kilometers, without a single navigational instrument. The navigator, Mao Pielug from the island of Satawal, guided the vessel as his ancestors had done. When the canoe crossed the equator and he lost sight of Polaris, he restructured his entire navigation system on the fly using southern constellations. The margin of error on arrival was 41 kilometers after 4,000 miles at sea. Computer simulations confirmed the probability of Polynesia being settled by accidental drift is effectively 0. These were planned expeditions by people who understood the ocean better than we understand our own highways. The North Atlantic is not the Pacific. Storms arrive in minutes. Waves reach 10 meters. Water temperature kills a person in 20 minutes. This is the ocean the Vikings chose. The longship, Drakkar in Old Norse, looked like a weapon built to frighten. Behind the symbolism was engineering centuries ahead of its time. The secret was clinker construction. Oak planks just 25 millimeters thick overlapped and fastened with iron rivets, with tarred wool packed between them for a watertight seal. The result was a hull simultaneously rigid and flexible, like the spine of a snake. In storm waves, it did not break. It bent, absorbed the impact, and returned to shape. In 2021, UNESCO added Scandinavian clinker boat building to its list of intangible cultural heritage. The Gokstad ship, found in a Norwegian burial mound in 1880, measured 23 meters with a draft of just over half a meter. That shallow draft gave the longship an advantage no other vessel could match. It could cross open ocean, navigate a river, beach on a shoreline, or be carried overland by its crew. Enemies never knew where the attack would come from. The Sea Stallion, a longship built in Dublin around 1042, reached 17 knots during sea trials. 17 knots on a wooden ship with no engine. That is 31 kilometers per hour, faster than most motorboats on a lake. It was on ships like these that Leif Erikson reached North America around the year 1000, 5 centuries before Columbus. The Vikings built a settlement at L'Anse aux Meadows in Newfoundland. Archaeology confirmed it. If this is the kind of history you want more of, history that makes you question everything you were taught, hit the like button. It tells the algorithm this content is worth spreading. The longship was not just a vehicle. It was a philosophy. Build light, build flexible, go everywhere, strike from anywhere. The Vikings understood something modern engineers are only beginning to rediscover. That in a world of unpredictable forces, a structure that bends is stronger than one that resists. That principle is now being applied in aerospace engineering and earthquake-resistant architecture. The Vikings figured it out with an axe and a piece of oak 1,000 years ago. 5 ships, 5 civilizations, thousands of years and thousands of miles between them. Every single one broke what we thought was possible with wood, rope, and human hands. The Egyptians built without a single nail, and the joints held tighter than steel. The Greeks turned a rowing boat into a guided torpedo moving faster than a modern sailing yacht. The Chinese built floating cities with watertight compartments 4 centuries before Europe thought of the same idea. The Polynesians crossed the largest ocean on the planet using nothing but memory. The Vikings proved that a flexible open hull could survive an Atlantic storm and deliver men to another continent. We live in a world where most of us cannot find our way to the nearest store without a screen telling us where to turn. These people found islands the size of a dot in the middle of an ocean that covers 1/3 of the Earth. Maybe the greatness of a civilization is not measured by the number of devices it produces. Maybe it is measured by the willingness to sail into the unknown on a ship you built with your own hands, knowing that if you got a single plank wrong, the ocean would not forgive you. What surprised you most today? Leave it in the comments. We read every one.